The biggest story from India, a political crisis. The Chief Minister of the Indian state of Jammu and Kashmir has resigned after the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party pulled out of a coalition government with her party, the PDP. Governor NN Vohra has recommended the president's rule in the state. The PDP said it always supported dialogue and reconciliation with the partner BJP in the state, but also offered some words of caution. Muscle power is not a viable solution for Jammu and Kashmir. The BJP said the three-year alliance with the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, had become quote-unquote untenable in the wake of increasing violence in the state. The NC, the National Conference, has appealed to the governor of the state to take control of the situation. They have raised a demand for fresh elections.
लेकिन हमने ये भी गुजारिश की कि ज़्यादा देर जो है गवर्नर रूल रहना नहीं चाहिए। आखिरकार लोगों को हक है वो अपनी हुकूमत चुने और हम चाहेंगे कि जल्द से जल्द गवर्नर साहब और उनके साथी कोशिश करें कि रियासत में दोबारा साजगार हालात बने, नए सिरे से इलेक्शन हो। उन इलेक्शंस के बाद लोगों का जो फैसला होगा वो हम सबको कबूल होगा सिर आंखों पर।
But what is the real story behind the end of the alliance partnership in Jammu and Kashmir? WION has learned that the alliance has been broken as part of a clear-cut strategy. Sources say the BJP government at the centre felt that it was time to break this tie-up, as Chief Minister Mehbooba Mufti was seen as not fully cooperating in the war against terror. While the central government wanted a hot pursuit of terrorists, that's according to sources, the Chief Minister remained reluctant. The centre was of the opinion that it was time to give security forces a free hand in taking aim at troublemakers in Jammu and Kashmir. Mehbooba Mufti acknowledged as much in her press conference after submitting her resignation today.
Jammu Kashmir mein boycott, treat Jammu Kashmir as an enemy territory. ये हमारे दुश्मनों की territory नहीं है, हमारे जम्मू कश्मीर के लोगों की territory है. इसलिए यहाँ muscular policy कामयाब नहीं हो सकती है.
According to sources, many top policemen in the state are likely to be transferred as part of the new policy as early as tonight. The end of the alliance will benefit both the BJP and the PDP politically. The BJP will retain its image as a party that did not compromise on terror. Mehbooba Mufti can now go back to her core cadre in South Kashmir, especially saying that she did not bow to the BJP's demands. There are bigger elections coming up. This could be a political strategy. For the moment, our sources telling us that the government is looking at going after terrorists in the state. The collapse of this government marks the end of a three-year-long experiment in Jammu and Kashmir. The BJP PDP Alliance had its share of problems right from the beginning. They'd agreed to form the coalition government in February 2015 after weeks of negotiations. But the PDP soon said the decision was unpopular. Their voters were not happy with it. A year later, Chief Minister Mufti Mohammed Saeed died. Months of negotiations followed. His daughter Mehbooba Mufti talked with Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Delhi, and finally in April 2016, 3 months after her father's death, she took over as Chief Minister. Mufti Mohammed Saeed had described an alliance between the People's Democratic Party and the Bharatiya Janata Party as a meeting of the North and South Poles. Many agreed. Both these parties had campaigned on completely different visions of Kashmir. For them to join hands was nothing but political opportunism. The biggest points of contention included their positions on Article 370 and the withdrawal of cases against stone pelters. But as coalition partners, they had to brush these under the carpet and work together to win hearts in the valley. It was an uphill task. For 2 years, they experimented and mostly failed. The latest example was the Ramazan ceasefire. It has just concluded and only led to more bloodshed. The killing of journalist Shujat Bukhari and rifleman Aurangzeb was the proverbial last straw. The coalition and its strategy of winning hearts was not working. The situation in Kashmir had only deteriorated. It was time to make a new beginning, and so the government collapsed today. Now, with the BJP abandoning ship, NN Vohra will have to make a very important decision for Jammu and Kashmir. A former Indian Air Force officer with an honorary doctorate in law, Vohra is the governor of the state and quite squarely in the hot seat. Here's a look at the record of the man who is, for all intents and purposes, ruling Jammu and Kashmir for the foreseeable future.
Narendra Vohra is a retired IAS officer from the batch of 1959 and the current and 12th governor of Jammu and Kashmir. Mr. Vohra was appointed the special interlocutor on Jammu and Kashmir from 2003 to 2008. He was then appointed governor of the state in 2008 and was reappointed for a fresh term in 2013. He has also served as the Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister of India, Home Secretary of India, Defence Secretary and Defence Production Secretary of India. In 2007, Mr. Vohra was awarded India's second highest civilian honour, the Padma Vibhushan for civil service. Before his public service appointments, Mr. Vohra served as a lecturer in Punjab University. He is a postgraduate in English from Punjab University. He was also a visiting fellow at the Queen Elizabeth House in Oxford University in the UK. In 2011, his alma mater, Punjab University, awarded him an honorary Doctor of Law. Bureau Report, WION.
Mr. Vohra has a tough challenge on his hands. Kashmir Story has been written in blood. There's been no peace in heaven on earth for decades now. Kashmir has been in a vicious cycle of turmoil. Trouble began right after the end of British rule in India. Pakistan sent its tribal invaders into the valley after the Maharaja of Kashmir signed the Treaty of Accession with India. Then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru ordered the airlift of troops to Srinagar to defend the country. The Indian troops beat back the Pakistani forces. A United Nations brokered ceasefire was put into place in 1948. The ceasefire mandated the withdrawal of Pakistani forces from the region. India was allowed to retain forces in the state to maintain law and order. The United Nations resolution also called for a referendum on the status of Kashmir. But the Pakistanis never withdrew their forces fully from the region, making the United Nations resolution in effect null and void. India also cited the elections in 1951, where voters backed Kashmir's accession to India. It was a referendum of sorts. Another plebiscite was unnecessary. The people had participated in the election. They had spoken in favor of India. In 1957, the Constitution of Jammu and Kashmir formally defined it as part of India. Following the Indo-Pakistan War of that year, the two sides signed the Shimla Agreement. Both sides pledged to settle their differences through negotiations and called for a final settlement of the Kashmir dispute. But Pakistan continued to stoke trouble. It kept up its demand for a plebiscite in Kashmir. In the late 1980s, Pakistani proxies in Kashmir began fomenting trouble again. Pakistan began dispatching non-state actors across the border to create unrest in Kashmir. The turmoil, protests and daily intimidation led to such a situation that a majority of pundits had to flee the Kashmir Valley. The Indian government imposed the Armed Forces Special Powers Act and troops were moved in to control the situation. Terrorism, crackdown and curfews hit normal life. The shadow of terror curtailed movement and people and hit tourism. Then in 1996, the government made a bold move by announcing a return to the democratic path. Elections were called in the spring of that year. The voter turnout was low, but a popular government was in place finally. National Conference leader Farooq Abdullah returned as Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir. There have been elections in the year 2002, 2008 and 2014 ever since, as the situation has progressively improved. Mufti Muhammad Saeed, Ghulam Nabi Azad, Omar Abdullah and Mehbooba Mufti have been chief ministers of the state. But while conditions have improved, a solution, an end to violence is still not in sight.